Okay, so there's a reason why many people start businesses, and it seems like they give themselves a second job. It seems like they're still grinding. In fact, it seems like while they were working a job was a whole lot easier than now that they started a business. And the goal of them starting a business seems like it's been defeated, right? The goal is freedom. The goal is to be able to make a ton of money and be able to retire to some island somewhere and enjoy the rest of your life forever. This is the dream. This is what a lot of people want when they start a business, but it doesn't pan out that way. Now, why doesn't it happen that way? Why do people grind, in fact, harder than they used to before they start a business? Now, the thing with business is that if you don't know how your business makes money, then you will not know how to make money. I know it sounds kind of backwards, but that's really how businesses work. Now, I see some people start a business and I'm like, oh my God, this person is going to struggle. I can see it right from day one because I've gone through all of these processes, all of these situations in my own career starting out. And today I'm going to tell you why. And then I'm going to tell you how to give yourself the biggest chance to succeed as an entrepreneur. The secret for making a lot of money, and a lot of people don't talk about this, the secret is in the kind of business model that you choose. Now, from my own experience, there are 4 different kinds of business models that you can run with. And each of them has its advantages and kind of its disadvantages, right? But the amount of money you make will determine and be based on the kind of business model that you choose from the get-go. This is the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons, why a lot of people don't make a lot of money in business. They start with a business model that is bad, that is doomed from day one, and then they struggle, and then they hope that things get better. But things don't change because they are trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, right? They're trying to make a snail grow to become a giant snail this size. But we know a snail can never do that, right? So let's talk about these business models. So there are 4 of them. So the first one is the low volume plus low price business model, right? This is what I call, this kind of entrepreneur, I call them the brokepreneur, right? So low volume, low price. When you're running a business with this kind of business model, you're selling stuff for a low price and you're selling so few of them. This is where you find most people who want to become entrepreneurs. Most people who start a business literally with no money, right? This is where most people are going to start from. They're going to start with selling something that you can sell for a lot of money, and then they find it hard to sell a lot of volume. They find it hard to make a lot of sales. When you do this, you are going to struggle. If this is your business, I'm sure you're already struggling, right? I can predict it right now that you're struggling because you're selling something that you can't charge a lot of money for, and then you're selling so few of it. It's hard to grow with this kind of business model. This is where you find people who sell hair, people who sell their homemade soap, people who sell maybe food from their home, people who sell maybe a couple of ebooks online, right? This is where you find them. Now, it is not a bad place to start. Like I said, most people start from here. I started from here. I started selling CDs. I will go online and then I will go to free ebook sites and I'll find ebooks that had master resale rights. So the master resale rights gave me the right to resell the books and keep 100% of whatever I earn from reselling them. So I will find them and then I'll burn the CDs. I'll burn the ebooks on CDs and then I will go to seminar venues every Saturday and then I will sell the CDs to people who come for the seminars, the live physical seminars, right? Meetings. So I'll go to conferences and and I'll try. And every week I'll sell anywhere between 10 and 30 of the CDs. And don't get me wrong, this tided me over a long period. In fact, I make decent money, but it wasn't something to sneeze at. But at the time, especially for where I was starting from, it was like I had hit the jackpot. But very, very quickly, I knew that my goals transcended this. I knew that where I wanted to go wasn't going to be reached if I continued to do this, right? So I started thinking about what next? What next do I do? Right. And then that's when I started reading and studying and learning about business models. So we're going to talk about the next business model now, which is number 2. And this one is basically high volume plus low price. High volume plus low price. So a business that runs on this kind of business model sells a lot of products, but the profits on each of the products is very, very small. But it really doesn't matter, because if you know how to organize it, you are going to make a lot of money. The only disadvantage with this model is that it requires a lot of experience building systems, creating distribution, managing teams of people, and organizing everything like a well-oiled machine. This is the business that Amazon does. The profit that Amazon makes on each product that they sell, right, is very, very little. But Amazon sells tens. I'm not saying hundreds of thousands or millions. Amazon sells tens of millions of products every single day. Every single day. So doesn't matter if they made 50 cents on each product that they sell. And by the way, in Amazon's favor, a lot of the products that they sell don't even belong to them. People just list the products there. So when somebody buys it from Amazon, Amazon collects the money, takes a small commission out of it, and pays the owner of the product, right? But Amazon sells tens of millions of these products, right? So even though they sell tens of millions of these products, right, and they make very little money for each product that they sell, when you aggregate everything, right? When they aggregate everything, they make a lot of money. But like I said, it requires a lot of organization, it requires a lot of systems building, it requires managing a ton of people, and it requires understanding how to make all of these things come together, right? Besides Amazon, this is also the business that Walmart does. Think of any supermarkets that you love going to. This is the model that they adopt. Think of any fast-moving consumer goods, right? Any commodity. This is the model that they use. Okay? So, number 3 is low volume plus high price. So, low volume plus high price. So, with this business model, you're still not selling a lot of products, but you are charging very, very premium prices for the products that you sell. So I said earlier that this was what I started with. And when I started learning about business models and I started to transition, the business model that I transitioned to was this. I was still doing low volume, but now my prices were different. My prices were very, very high. And it quickly helped me leave where I was living at the time, get my own house, move to an affluent neighborhood. I began to travel abroad because now I was making really, really good money, right? Because now, even though I was still doing low volume, I was doing high price. I moved from selling books burnt on CDs, I started selling consulting services. And with this model, this is where you find a lot of people who do consulting, a lot of people who do coaching, a lot of people who offer professional services, right? This is where you find a lot of speakers. Basically, the idea is that even though you're selling low volume, you are able to create something that you can price really, really high. And the reason why it works is that a lot of people want convenience and they want speed and they want assurance. So if you can convince them that you know what you are doing, that your service is what what you're asking them to pay for it, they will rather just pay for it and not have to deal with the headaches. So you go and you do the thing for them, and we can charge them a lot of money. In fact, right now, I'm in discussions with the prospective clients for multiple millions, a deal that we're talking about that is in this category. And when we seal the deal, just like I know we're going to seal that deal, we're going to be making a millions, right? So this is what I call this kind of entrepreneur the luxurypreneur, right? This number two, I call this kind of entrepreneur the scalapreneur, right? Because this person, number two, is concerned about high volume, even though they make very little amounts of money. But with this person, they don't really care about low volume because they are charging premium price for the products or the service. All right. Now, the fourth business model is high volume plus high price. Now, this is where empires are built. So I call this the empirepreneur. This kind of entrepreneur is the empirepreneur, right? High volume, high price. So you sell a lot of products, but you charge premium prices for it, right? Lots of products, premium prices for your products. This is where you find people like Elon Musk. Elon Musk owns Tesla and he sells hundreds of thousands of cars every single year, right? As far as I know, right? Hundreds of thousands of cars every single year. And guess what? Each of those cars costs. Each of those cars costs at least $90,000 each. I know because I was recently trying to get, I'm thinking about getting my wife a car. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to get her a Tesla. So I went to the Tesla website and I was looking at the different specifications of the car so that I'll know which of the options to get her, right? And in my head, I was thinking maybe it's $60,000, something like that. But I found out that the model that I wanted to get her was about 92,000, thereabouts, right? So imagine if you own the company that charged 92,000 bucks, dollars in this case, and you sell hundreds of thousands of that product, right? This is how empires are built. People in this category are almost like, they're kind of like mini gods. They're kind of like up there. They're the people that you see written about all the time, right? They are the people like the big banks, right? Banks like JP Morgan, right? JP Morgan is an investment bank. They sell to hundreds of thousands of customers, high net worth individuals, and they charge hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars for their products. These guys build empires. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to look at all of this and you want to ask yourself, which of these categories am I on? Are you here or here or here or here, right? And you have to understand that as you journey along in your business journey, you want to get to the point where you are transitioning from here, right, to here as much as possible. The goal is to get here, right? Now I'm here personally, right? And now I'm working towards coming here because I'm having things done right now, right? Working on a giant factory in my country right now to manufacture our own goods. And I know it's going to be really, really good when we're done. So you've got to look at this and say, where am I on this board? Where do I find myself? If you find yourself here, there's nothing to worry about. You can move and go into the better models. In fact, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the people you love, in order to do everything you can to leave this place if you are here, because this is where dreams die. This is where dreams die. You don't want to be stuck here for a long time. Otherwise, you're not going to make any money. It's almost like you should go get a job if you're here, because what's the point, right? So you want to go from here and move into the other models, right? So look at this board and ask yourself, where am I on this board? Where am I? And how do I move up the ladder, so to say, in order to get get into the better business models? Because when you do that, then it becomes easy to do business. You make money faster, you make money a whole lot easier, and you get rich quicker than you thought, really. So I want you to drop a comment below and tell me sincerely, right? Which of these levels are you at? Which business model are you currently operating? And I'm going to come into the comments and offer a bit of advice to help you make the transition that you need to make. So hope you loved this video. And if you loved it, you will hit the like button on the video and share this video with your friends. Share it with someone who you know is in business, because I believe that this is going to bless their life. All right. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to see you guys in another one. Cheers.